Welcome to Translation Mysteries. In this video, I'll be using live footage from my Xenoblade Chronicles 3 stream. But first, I want to make one thing clear. Localization is an art, not a science. There's almost never a right answer, so these are just my opinions at the end of the day. With that out of the way, let's get into it.
That could have been more
いつまで
smooth.
こうしているつもりだ。それも敵であるこいつらと。
ああ、そうだな。
English is a little bit different there. Tayon's not happy about having to hang out with his enemies.
気分のいいもんじゃね。
右に同じ。
それはこちらも同じだ。
太陽、その言い方は少し抑えて。
Rewritten a little is a good translation.
お前ら生きたいか。もっと生きたいか。
行きたいか。
え？
みんな行きたい。
One thing you've seen a lot of Japanese scripts is that characters will repeat the thing that they heard a lot. In English, is not quite as natural to do that, but sometimes it is. In this case, they decided not to repeat the same thing, and they translated it to "good question," which I think is more natural in English.
これは推測だが、兵士たちには僕たちの姿が敵に見えているんじゃないか。
赤い瞳のせいで。
そうだ。
けど、なんだってコロニーの兵士たちが。
You notice that Tayon's speech comes off as slightly more intellectual. They're giving him, even in like short answers, they're giving him slightly longer words. So instead of saying yes or right, he'll say correct. He'll say, "Do the enemies perceive us as, whatever?" So they're giving him a little bit more advanced vocabulary. It's not like super noticeable, but if you pay attention to it, you'll catch on to it.
お前、成人の儀はどうすんだよ。
それ本気で言ってる？無理なの。うすうす分かってるだろ。
And in Japanese, there they were more obvious about what Noah wanted to say. He said "muri," it's impossible, but they didn't say that in English. It's just implied.
それに、あれだけいろんなこと体験して、今さら戦える？
こいつらは敵だぞ。
敵であったとしても。
Even if they were the enemy, is what she said in Japanese. So slightly different nuance there. The English is more forward. They were the enemy. She's telling him they were the enemy. They are no longer the enemy. Japanese is a little more passive. Even if they were the enemy.
俺の名前はノア。コロニー9戦列特務小隊所属。見ての通り送り人をしている。この3人、ランツやユーニやリクトは訓練兵時代から一緒。趣味はやっぱりこれかな。教練で教えられた旋律じゃなくて、いつか自分なりの旋律を奏でたいって思ってる。以上。
なんだよそれ。いきなり自己紹介とかおかしいだろ。
Feels like a surprise inspection. Interesting translation. In Japanese, he said, "Why are you introducing yourself so suddenly?" And maybe in Japanese that like feels a little bit more natural because self-introductions, I think, are way more prevalent when you're interacting with people in Japan. But inspection is an interesting translation there.
結構俊敏なのが自慢かな。100メテリは7秒台。そりゃ早いな。
That's fast. You go, girl. That's fast in Japanese. You go, girl, in English. That's fun. But she reminded me that Noah said, "This is my passion" in English, while in Japanese he said, "My hobby is," and he was like talking about the flute, right? That's an interesting difference, I think. This is my passion. My hobby is.
あと、趣味は日記。日
Her
々を書
hobby
き
is
留め
the
るのが
diary.
好きで、毎日欠かさずつけてます。得意技はラウンドヒーリング。仲間をみんな回復できる優れもの。趣味は
There it
フ
is.
ォーチュンクローバーを集めることかな。
何か使えるものは。
Yeah, so so far, up to this point, I think that the translations were usually pretty close to the original with just some flavoring, but I do wonder about the part where he said, "What is this, an inspection?" That seems kind of weird. I feel like they could have stuck with talking about like, "Oh, why are you introducing yourself like this?" Or they could have made it sound like, "Why are you being so formal with an introduction?" or something like that. But I guess saying that this is like an inspection sort of gives you a little bit more development about the world itself, right? Now we know that during an inspection of whatever sort that he was thinking of, the people at the colony have to, I guess, introduce themselves. Whereas in the Japanese, you don't actually get that information. In the Japanese, it's just more so, why are you introducing yourself like this? So that was an interesting change.
それが君の残したいもの？
ミオでいいよ。
Wait, what? Her name is Mio, right? That was weird. I guess. Okay, so what actually happened in that conversation there at the end? Noah asked, like, is that what you want to leave behind, or whatever he asked. But when he said it in Japanese, he used the second person pronoun, kimi, and she said, you can call me Mio. Since the whole pronoun thing doesn't really happen in English, they had to change up the conversation a little bit so that it wasn't like, is that what you want to do? You can call me Mio. It's like, well, what was I going to call you, right? So the conversation there is actually kind of different in English. Not really much you can do when you're translating something like that, though.
ケイ、言ってくれるな。
仰せのままに。では。さて。
The guy who asked said, "You'll go, right?" So it was more like a command than anything. And then the person who left, "Oh, say no mama ni, I'll do as you say, ja," and then he said bye or something like that. It's interesting. Translation is good. Just like a slightly different nuance.
でもさ、希望ぐらいは持っておいてもいいんじゃない？
まあ、君がそこまで言うのなら。
That's different, right? There's logic to that. Sounds like something he would say, but it's not what he said. He said if you're gonna go as far as to say that, basically saying like she's making an argument for it, so sure. If you're really gonna argue for it that hard, sure. I guess they wanted to go more into his personality with there's a logic to it. So far, I mean, whether you think the localization is good is up to how you like your localization, but so far I really like the localization, and it matches what I would like for my localization, which is stay pretty close to the meaning, but also make sure to drop some flavoring into the script, because the Japanese script probably doesn't have the same flavoring as you need for an English-speaking audience.
繊維喪失でもいい。
勝手なもんだな。
え？
That's a different... He didn't say how kind of you, but this is similar to what I was saying earlier in that the English script probably has more sarcasm. Or not probably. I know that English scripts in games have more sarcasm than Japanese scripts, because in Japan, sarcasm is not quite as common. So how kind of you is actually sarcasm, because he said kattena mondana, which is sort of like saying that Noah is making this decision without asking anyone of their opinion first. Like you're making decisions without
これ
including
までは
us.
敵として殺してきたのに。
違う、絶対した。こいつバカじゃねって思った。
くだらん。この話まだ続ける気か。
続けるに決まってるだろ。はっきりさせるまで。
時間の無駄だ。実にくだらん。
She didn't call him Four Eyes in Japanese, but I guess they're angry. Someone shoot me was definitely creative. He didn't say that either. He just said that the conversation was stupid.
視界が遮られるから好きじゃないんだけど。まあいいでしょう。で、私の部屋はどちら？
あ、こちらへ。
The guy has a very, I guess, flamboyant way of speaking. He's very dramatic.
排除してほしい輩がいるのよ。
排除。この辺りでアグヌスの鉄巨神は確認されておりませんが。
Interesting that her response when she said vermin in Japanese said haijo, which isn't a reflection of the word vermin, it's a reflection of the word exterminate or eradicate, whatever the hell he said. So the structure is the same where she repeats a word with a question mark, but the nuance of the English saying vermin question mark is more like she's unaware of who these vermin are supposed to be, whereas haijo question mark or exterminate question mark is more like we have to exterminate someone. It's like it's not that big of a deal, the difference, but it is a little bit different.
ミオのアイコンだけロックがかかってないな。
Oh.
なんでノアの服が変わったんだ？
So the English was a little bit creative there, but the Japanese, she said, why did Noah's clothes change? So actually, the English and the Japanese completely different there, huh?
なんかよくわかんないけど便利じゃん。
これもウロボロスの能力なのか。戦略の幅が広がるので。
She said convenient in Japanese and cool in English. Interesting.
スプラッシュブラスト。
Splash Brasto? Splash Blast? Myopic Screen? That's a... The translation is pretty different from the Japanese.
ミオもすごかったよ。
もう少し練習すれば君より上達するかも。
She said I could have thrashed you in English. In Japanese, it wasn't quite as confrontational. It was, I think with a little practice, I could actually be better than you. But I guess with the English, they wanted to be a little bit more playful.
That's all for now. There will be more videos coming soon, so if you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to discuss the translations live, be sure to drop a follow on Twitch at BrooklynB_JP. We'll also be doing a translation stream of Yokai Watch 4 once I hit 200 followers, so all the more reason to hit that follow button on Twitch. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.